In 2025, the land of Lincoln faces a pivotal moment, teetering on the brink as its residents confront challenges so profound that they're choosing to abandon their homes in search of a brighter future elsewhere. Why are so many people fleeing Illinois? What hidden dangers lurk beneath the surface? And is there any hope for a state seemingly caught in a downward spiral? Number 7. Growing homeless crisis. The plight of Illinois is perhaps most starkly illustrated by the alarming surge in its homeless population, a humanitarian crisis that has seen 125,556 individuals without stable housing. This isn't merely a statistic. It represents a profound societal failing, a visible symptom of deeper economic and structural issues that are increasingly making the state uninhabitable for its most vulnerable residents. While homelessness is a nationwide challenge, Illinois' numbers are particularly troubling, exacerbated by a confluence of factors including stagnant wages, a lack of affordable housing, and a social safety net strained to its breaking point. For many, the dream of homeownership or even secure rental accommodation has become an unattainable fantasy, as rising costs of living collide with an economic landscape that offers little upward mobility for low-income families. The impact extends far beyond those directly affected, creating a ripple effect throughout communities. Increased demand for emergency shelters, food banks, and social services puts immense pressure on already underfunded local governments and charitable organizations. The visibility of homelessness also impacts the perception of safety and quality of life in urban centers, deterring potential residents and businesses. This growing crisis is not just a side effect. It's a central component of the broader exodus, as the inability to secure basic necessities like shelter drives desperate individuals and families to seek refuge in states perceived to offer better opportunities and more manageable living costs. The narrative of a state failing its most vulnerable is a powerful motivator for those considering their own future within Illinois' borders. Number 6. The Great Tax Grab, the #1 property tax rate in the nation. Perhaps no single factor ignites more fury and drives more residents out of Illinois than its unenviable status as the state with the highest property tax rate in the nation. This isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a financial burden that has become unbearable for countless homeowners, transforming the dream of property ownership into an escalating nightmare. For decades, Illinois has grappled with structural budget deficits and an inability to rein in spending, leading successive governments to rely heavily on local property taxes as a primary revenue source. The result is a system where homeowners, regardless of their income fluctuations, are subjected to relentless increases in their property tax bills. These aren't just marginal hikes. We're talking about bills that can easily swallow a significant portion of a homeowner's monthly budget, making it exceedingly difficult to save for retirement, education, or even basic living expenses. The issue is particularly acute for those on fixed incomes, such as retirees, who find their ability to remain in their homes severely threatened as their property values may rise, but their incomes do not keep pace with the corresponding tax assessments. This punitive tax environment has a cascading effect. It depresses property values in many areas, makes it harder for first-time buyers to enter the market, and acts as a significant deterrent for businesses considering relocation to the state. When residents crunch the numbers, comparing their Illinois property tax bill to what they might pay in neighboring states or Sun Belt havens, the decision to leave often becomes a painfully logical one. The Great Tax Grab isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about perceived fairness, the ability to build equity, and the fundamental promise of stability that homeownership is supposed to provide, a promise that Illinois increasingly fails to deliver. Number 5. The Pension Trap. $200 billion in unfunded debt. At the heart of Illinois' perpetual financial crisis lies a staggering and seemingly insurmountable problem. It's $200 billion in unfunded public pension liabilities. This isn't just a large number. It's a financial black hole that is systematically devouring the state's budget, crowding out vital public services, and ensuring a cycle of fiscal distress that appears to have no end. For decades, Illinois politicians have made promises to public sector employees regarding their retirement benefits, but have consistently failed to adequately fund these obligations. This underfunding was often politically convenient in the short term, allowing for increased spending on other programs or delaying difficult tax increases. However, The chickens are now coming home to roost with a vengeance. The state is legally obligated to pay these pensions, meaning an ever-growing portion of its annual budget must be allocated to these payments, rather than to essential services that directly benefit current residents. This includes education, infrastructure, public safety, and social programs. The result is a perpetual state of austerity for these critical services, even as taxes continue to rise. Schools struggle with outdated facilities and underpaid teachers. Roads and bridges crumble, and healthcare services face constant cuts. The pension trap creates an environment of economic uncertainty, making it incredibly difficult for the state to invest in its future or attract new businesses. It signals a deep-seated mismanagement of public funds that erodes taxpayer confidence and fosters a pervasive sense of hopelessness about the state's long-term viability. For many, this unsustainable financial trajectory is a clear indication that Illinois is on a path to insolvency, compelling them to seek greener pastures where fiscal responsibility appears to be a higher priority. Why? Number 4. Taxpayer versus retiree. 25% of the budget goes to pensions. The direct consequence of Illinois' pension crisis is a brutal zero-sum game played out in the state budget. A staggering 25% of the annual budget is now dedicated solely to public pension payments. This isn't merely an allocation. It represents a colossal drain on resources that fundamentally reshapes what the state can and cannot provide for its current citizens. To put plainly, 1 out of every $4 collected from taxpayers is diverted to meet past promises, leaving significantly less for pressing needs of today and tomorrow. The most immediate and devastating impact is felt in critical areas like education and infrastructure. Imagine what could be accomplished if even a fraction of that 25% were reinvested into public schools. Instead, school districts across Illinois are perennially underfunded, leading to larger class sizes, fewer resources for students, dilapidated buildings, and a struggle to attract and retain top teaching talent. This directly compromises the future prospects of Illinois' children and families, pushing parents to seek better educational opportunities in other states. Similarly, the state's roads, bridges, and public transportation systems are chronically neglected. Potholes are a common blight. Infrastructure projects are constantly delayed, and the overall quality of public transportation suffers. This not only frustrates daily commuters, but also hinders economic development, making it more challenging for businesses to transport goods and services efficiently. The choice presented to Illinoisans is stark. Continue funding a legacy pension system that consumes a quarter of the budget, or accept a diminishing quality of life through underfunded services. For many, this isn't a choice they are willing to make, and the exodus accelerates as a result. Number 3. The job drain. Why companies like Boeing left. Illinois, once a manufacturing powerhouse and a hub for corporate headquarters, is experiencing a severe job drain that is bleeding the state of its economic vitality and driving its workforce elsewhere. The most high-profile example, and a harbinger of things to come, was the departure of Boeing, a corporate giant that packed its bags for Virginia. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a clear signal to the business world that Illinois' economic environment had become less competitive and more burdensome. The decline in manufacturing, a sector that historically provided well-paying, stable jobs, has been particularly acute. High labor costs, burdensome regulations, and a less than favorable tax structure have made it increasingly difficult for manufacturers to justify staying in or expanding within the state. This erosion of the industrial base leaves a significant void, not only in terms of direct employment, but also in the supporting industries and local economies that depend on them. The corporate exodus extends beyond manufacturing, with numerous other businesses, both large and small, choosing to relocate or expand in states with lower taxes, fewer regulatory hurdles, and more robust incentive packages. This flight of capital and jobs creates a devastating feedback loop. Fewer job opportunities mean fewer people paying taxes, which further exacerbates the state's fiscal problems, leading to even higher taxes and more departures. For Illinois' workforce, especially its younger generations, the message is clear. The best opportunities often lie outside the state's borders. The job drain isn't just about statistics. It's about shattered career aspirations and the inability to build a prosperous future in a state that increasingly struggles to retain its economic engines. Number 2. The corrupt legacy. The cloud of corruption. Why voters have lost faith in Springfield. Illinois carries a notorious distinction, a pervasive and seemingly intractable legacy of political corruption that has profoundly eroded public trust and cynicism among its citizens. The cloud of corruption hanging over Springfield, the state capital, is not just a historical footnote. It is a live and active deterrent for anyone considering a long-term future in Illinois. From governors going to jail to countless local officials indicted on various charges, the headlines are a constant reminder of a system perceived as rigged and self-serving. This culture of corruption manifests in various ways: backroom deals, cronyism in contract awards, campaign finance scandals, and the use of public office for private gain. For the average voter, this translates into a deep-seated frustration that their voices are not heard, their tax dollars are mismanaged, and their government is not working in their best interests. This loss of faith has significant consequences. It leads to voter apathy, as many feel their vote makes no difference in a system they believe is inherently corrupt. It also creates an unstable and unpredictable regulatory environment for businesses, making them hesitant to invest in a state where the rules can seemingly change based on political influence rather than sound policy. Perhaps most damaging, it fosters a general sense of hopelessness that real change is impossible. When citizens feel their leaders are more focused on personal enrichment than public service, the motivation to stay and fight for a better future diminishes. The perception and often reality of widespread corruption is a powerful psychological factor contributing to the exodus, as residents seek states where governance is perceived to be more transparent, accountable, and ultimately trustworthy. Number 1. The safety narrative: crime versus reality. Illinois, particularly its largest metropolis, Chicago, grapples with complex and often polarizing safety narrative, a perception problem where the reality of crime often gets intertwined with political rhetoric and media portrayal, ultimately impacting city life and driving residents away. While crime rates can fluctuate and are subject to various interpretations, the prevailing perception for many outside and inside the state is that Illinois, and Chicago specifically, is an increasingly dangerous place to live, work, and visit. This narrative is fueled by sensationalized headlines, statistics that are sometimes presented without full context, and real increases in certain types of violent crime in specific areas. The perception, regardless of its statistical nuance, has tangible consequences. For families, the primary concern is safety and quality of life. High-profile incidents, even if geographically isolated, create a generalized fear that affects decisions about where to live, where to send children to school, and where to work. This fear can lead to a phenomenon known as white flight, or, more broadly, an exodus of middle and upper-class families who have the means to relocate to areas perceived as safer. For businesses, the perception of high crime rates can deter investment, lead to difficulties in attracting employees, and even increase insurance costs. It also impacts tourism, a vital economic driver for Chicago, as visitors may choose other destinations if they believe their safety is at risk. While efforts are underway to address crime and reshape the narrative, the deeply ingrained perception problem remains a significant hurdle. It's a powerful emotional factor for many who are weighing their options, ultimately pushing them to leave a state where they no longer feel secure or optimistic about their personal safety and the well-being of their communities.